Your Excellency, Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Your Excellency, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, my brother and my friend Eugene Wamalwa, Mr. Speaker, and all of you wonderful people present here today. For clarity, the Honorable David Murathe, who was being talked about, is my colleague member of Jubilee, the Vice Chairman of Jubilee. Kembi Gitura is also here, and Torome and Rwanja Maina. These are now recently for the business of this red shirt I'm wearing, some of my compatriots. And thank you all of you for being here. Because we are not going to make long speeches, I want to start first of all by congratulating Honorable Muturi for doing this book. In the 90s, I'm actually looking forward to reading it. In the 90s, in the mid-90s, I served on a small committee with Professor Henry Ndangasi and the others in designing at the graduate school at the University of Nairobi a course that we call the African Autobiography. Because for those of you who may be students of literature and linguistics, the autobiographic genre became new to Africa, probably late 60s and early 70s, because autobiography was mainly a predominant genre for Westerners in terms of writing. There are many theories you could go into on that particular basis, whether or not Africans didn't have stories to write or Africans didn't have to write about their lives and so on and so forth. But it's gratifying to see that now in Kenya, the genre has not only taken root, but it's very vibrant and present. And we are looking forward to reading what J.B. Muturi has done. But most importantly, I spent about 9 years working on legislative strengthening. And this is where I interacted actively with J.B. Muturi when I ran the Kenya Parliamentary Strengthening Program as first of all the Deputy Director, then Country Director for SUNY, and then later on the Regional Director for East and Southern Africa. We served together a little bit. I was reminding JB now on the ALP project, the African Legislatures project, when we did an analysis and put together data on Africa's 48 legislatures. What makes parliaments work, what makes parliaments tick, the characters and the types of parliaments and so on. JB has always been a very resourceful person. In fact, I could be forgiven to say that on the African continent, when you look at experiential exposure and education on legislative work and institutional development in legislation, JB could be one of the about 5 or 10 who have built that body of knowledge and experience in legislative practice that you could actually consult, very much like the big speakers we consult from the Commonwealth Parliament, like the Lok Sabha in India and Australia and so on. I remember many things. I was asking Eugene what I should reveal and what I shouldn't reveal. Then Eugene kept reminding me some of those are too sensitive to reveal. But I remember how we had a lot of discussions with JB the first time we started implementing the new constitution on how the president should behave when he goes to parliament. Because the big debate exists whether or not when the president enters parliament, he should actually sit down in parliament, because the president is not a member of parliament. And if you look at the body of knowledge that exists, especially from the US Congress and the others, because the president is not a member of the assembly, he walks in, puts the report on the table, reads the speech and walks out without sitting down because he's not a member of parliament. Then we had a long evening with J.B. Muturi. And I was very fascinated by the authoritative basis on which he made his decisions. And as many of you who have been through this experience would attest, it was an intellectually fulfilling experience to see our own speaker getting into that space in a very authoritative manner and very exciting way. So here is my request to you, or my ask, JB. I'm going to, I've not read your book, so I'm going to read it now. And I hope you have delved into those issues like the ones I've said, when we have a presidential system of government in Kenya, the symbolism of whether or not the president should actually sit in parliament, whether it's a State of the Union or State of the Nation address, there are small nuances that a lot of people spend time writing on. If you look at the body of knowledge on legislative work across the world, there are small nuances that people dwell on, which are critical in terms of the formation of government and the character of government and how it moves forward. I ask you, therefore, to, beyond the autobiographical work that you have done, I would like to request you, Mr. Speaker, to now also help contribute to the intellectual body of knowledge on parliaments and what parliaments are supposed to do. Because you see, for those of you, my colleagues like Naituli, Kawanja, who are in the room and so on, recently, there's been a big argument in the academy on the actuality of representation for parliament. Who do parliaments actually represent? Because this started from the theory of no taxation without representation. So you have these institutions, big bodies that gobble resources. They do a fantastic job, but who do they actually represent? When they enact, for example, a cybercrime law, like the one that was enacted, which you can see clearly, it's diametrically at variance with the existing mood in the country and the democratic context in which we are operating. Where does representation begin and where does it end? And then finally, the history of our parliament has not been very well studied and documented. I argue all the time, and all of you wonderful people here will relate to this, that this parliament that is in office now, and the honorable members of parliament who are here, please allow me to be very sincere. This is the first time parliament has not acted and actually invoked its absolute institutional mandate, which is bipartisan representation to deal with issues of the day. Because we have seen in previous parliaments, many of you who are here, Mheshimiwa Murathe, Mheshimiwa Kembi Gittura, and the others who were in parliament in the past, when there was a crisis in the country, and in fact, this is the contribution of parliament to the management of the country. Parliament usually closes ranks, they forget about parties, they come together and now do a parliamentary inquiry on an issue. When the Gen Z demonstrations happened in 2024, and what happened in parliament happened, quite frankly, from a government point of view, and as somebody who has been a cabinet minister, I thought that the executive branch of government was going to take advantage of an absolute opportunity available to them, ask parliament to have a bipartisan inquiry on what had happened, so that then they can follow and provide even an opportunity through which expression and discussion would happen on the challenges of Gen Z and what was happening in the country. Now, we haven't seen that rigorous use of the institution of parliament for the good of the country, where, for example, investigations like those would happen. And both parties in government and parties in the opposition would sit and deal with those kinds of issues. When children burn to ashes in a school here, 21 of them, you expect a complete and thorough bipartisan investigation by parliament. No, none of us here, I don't know whether there's anybody even in this room who knows how many graves are in Shakahola and how many people died there. No thorough bipartisan parliamentary investigation. This is why there is now a big debate on the actuality of representation for legislative institutions. Who do they actually represent in the long run? Are they acting in the good of the people, or are they acting in the good of the political environment of the day? But anyway, such is life. Thank you so much, my brothers. And JB, you have done all of us proud. Continue to do what you are doing. But I would like to, because you have now shown us the way, please, I know you have a lot to offer. You have much more to offer than this book. So I encourage you, Godspeed as you give us the next phase of this, and may God bless you.